The Mayans by Frank and Peera.
Civilization was a dominant indigenous society of Mesoamerica, which is known as Central America. The Mayans excelled in the fields of agriculture and were extremely talented in craftsmanship and masonry. The Mayans individually adventured throughout Mexico as they were never a single culture and fought with each other constantly.
Geographical location is a contribution to their beliefs. Both the highlands and lowlands were used as a route for trade. As a source of food for the lowlands had naturally produced crops. The highlands, which comprised the volcanoes, consisted of gems and precious metals which were used for trade and their own benefit. Two river systems were used as a source of water and transportation. The Mayans worshipped everything in nature, which includes the rainforest in the lowlands, the volcanic mountains in the highlands, and the two major rivers.
The Mayans inhabited part of Mexico, Guatemala, and half of Honduras.
Origins of the universe. Mayan mythology is extremely interesting and contains fascinating stories. Mayan mythology began to emerge from the religion and traditions of a civilization as old as 3,000 years from an enormous region called Mesoamerica, which involves several territories that are currently established as Mexican states. Various legends still exist today and continue to survive in the region of the origins of the Mayans.
Religions of ancient origins. Ancient religions are the religions of early civilizations. The religions were influenced by religious beliefs and practices of the place that they were developed. Ancient religions began to rise where living cities had created the need for new forms of social organizations and specializations. Priests began to be responsible for sacrifices and control rituals. Ancient religions had primary goals to influence religious believers and give them an improved understanding of the specific religion.
The Popol Vuh contains a large structured set of several texts and are used to analyze rules with a particular area.
Part 1 of the Popol Vuh consists of two stories. 1. A narration of the failure of the gods to create earthly beings who will adore, obey, and sustain them. Or 2. Tells how two mysterious twins, Hanafu and Exbalukyu, destroy an arrogant celestial being, Vakum Kakwix, and his two sons, Zipacana and Karbakan, who refuse to adore, obey, and sustain their creators. The first story of Part 1 opens with a description of what it was like before the first creation began. All was empty, all was in silence, all was motionless, there was only the sky and the sea. Then came the world, like a lightning bolt ripped through the skies. The second story opens with a vain Lucifer figure named Vakub Kaksvik, who had two sons, Zipacana and Kabrakan, both whom made the earth shake as they burrowed under mountains. In Part 3 it is the beginning of when the first true humans appear. Part 4 of the Popol Vuh ends with the genealogies of the tribes of the Quiche who finally came to the end.
Principal beliefs. The Mayan were a polytheistic religion as they believed in several gods. Some of these gods include Itzamanj, god of all, and Chak, the god of rain. Human sacrifice was forbidden but was done occasionally during crisis. They also believed that bloodletting was a source of sacrifice to the gods and to call the vision serpent, giving them insight of future significant events. Mayans also believed that the earth's crust was a layer between the spirit world and the real world. Furthermore, they believed the skulls and skeletons were a sign of regeneration.
Beliefs are important. The beliefs that skulls and skeletons were a sign of rejuvenation might have been because there was a lot of death in the world due to disease, so they believed that the spirit world was a better place. Human sacrifices were done due to the limited supplies of food and livestock they were willing to offer. They believed their leaders were descendants of God in order for him to be feared and respected. Back then, serpents were associated with fortune-telling, hence why they used a serpent to tell the future.
Afterlife. Heaven was known as Tamanchan, where all the gods lived. How you died on earth determined whether you reached heaven or not, and what level of heaven is also decided. They believed there was a place hidden. Ex-Ibal-Aba is their vision of hell, where most souls are destined to go. In order to get Tamanchan, one must navigate through Ex-Ibal-Aba in order to get there.
Supernatural powers and deities. The Mayans had multiple gods and goddesses, which some of them include Itzamnaj, the supreme god creator, who created life. Itzamnaj could grant others immortality, including capabilities may also be increased for certain sacrifices, such as eating new meat. Chak. Chak was the god of rain and the bringer of rain. Ixtab. Ixtab was the goddess of honorable suicide, which was achieved by hanging themselves.
Relation to principal beliefs. Kuku Chan was a deity who didn't allow for human sacrifices as he vowed not to be violent. Kukulcan is here pictured on the right. Bloodletting was completed in order to communicate to the deities in order to get a premonition of the future events to come. Many would hang themselves if they wanted to commit suicide, as the goddess Ixtab had said it was the honorable way of killing oneself.
Deities and their roles. Arpanch. Arpanch's role was he was the god of death and destruction. He brought disease and was associated with war. Chak. Chak's role was he was the bringer of rain. Itzamnaj was the chief god, ruler of heaven, of night and day, and of the other deities.
Relation to culture and society. Generally, most of their culture are based upon what they have seen in the world and how the majority of the population saw what life was like and put it in their faiths and culture. People of that time had feared the Arpach and his underworld, so in order to escape Ixal Baba, they would attempt to reach Tamunchan. Many healers of that time done it in the name of the goddess of medicine, Ixchel, and always would refer to her whether during the healing process or in the general speeches.
Itzamnaj was significant to the Mayans as he had invented writing and is a patron of the arts and sciences to the Mayans. Without him inventing literature, they wouldn't be able to record their beliefs and the Mayan religion would be lost forever. Itzamnaj was a major god and was commonly referred to among the Mayan society. He is depicted as an avian with a snake in his beak and its head similar to the rain deity Chak.
Rituals. Sacrifice was a religious activity in Mayan culture, involving the killing of animals and rituals performed by priests. Sacrifice has been a feature of all pre-modern societies at some stage of their development and for the same reason, to fulfill a perceived obligation towards the gods. Bloodletting was a particular ritual that involved cutting the human body to release blood associated with both healing and sacrifice.
Death rituals. People who had died through suicide, sacrifices, childbirth, and so on were thought to have moved to Tamakan instead of Ixbalba. The death rituals follow. The Mayans were laid down with corn in their mouth. Corn was a symbol of rebirth, so they would enter the spirit world, and a jade was also placed as a form of currency. This is similar to the Egyptians who had placed material with the dead in order to survive the afterlife.
Other Mayan rituals included decapitation, heart removal, and other sacrifices.
Sacred places. The Mayan civilization was one of the most sophisticated cultures. The Mayan cities are full of magnificent stone temples and pyramids. The Mayan people looked to the priests of the cities for directions on the best days to plant, harvest, and marry. Most of the Mayans lived in rural areas. The Mayans and their pyramid temples were observed as symbolic representations.
Tamunchan and Ixbalba. Tamunchan was conceived as a paradise where gods created the first of the present human race out of sacrificed blood and ground human bones, which had been stolen from the underworld of Mictlan. Ixbalba is as a court below the surface of the earth associated with death and with the 12 gods or powerful rulers known as the Lords of Ixbalba. The Lords are often referred to as demons and are given commission and domain over various forms of human suffering to cause sickness, starvation, fear, destitution, pain, and ultimately death.
Significant life events. Life events that these rituals had recognized had included childbirth, coming of age, marriage, and death. Life events included childbirth. Woman in labor is in safe hands. Death. To claim the Mayan people. Marriage. Create a connection between the couple.
Death and burial. The Mayans significantly respected death. Various traditions commemorate the deceased. The dead were put to rest with maize placed in their mouth. Tombs were filled with goods.
Chichen Itza was one of the largest Mayan ruined cities. The Chichen Itza saw its greatest growth and became the most powerful city in Yucatan. Most of the grand architecture was built in this age.
Sacrifice to the gods. Many groups of people have performed human sacrifices as a way of pleasing or appeasing their gods. Precious feathers appear where blood would be expected, coming from the wounds in some depictions of Maya human sacrifice rituals. This symbolizes how valuable the life-giving fluid is to the gods.
Religion and society. The Mayan society were constantly divided due to little differences, but still had common beliefs and cultural background. The society was split into the northern, southern, and central, where the central was where the majority of the classic Mayans had resided. As a society, everyone had the same belief, so they would practice their religion as a community in temples where prayer would be commended and occasionally sacrifices. The ethical system were reflected in society as they used to sacrifice humans just to appease their deities.
Fire rituals. The fire ceremony was performed every 52 years in order to stop the world from ending. The ceremonial fire is seen across the countryside. This is not as a symbol as a bonfire, as there are special ingredients that are added into the fire which were produced as shaman shops. During the ceremony, everyone would light up a candle and hold it. Then the Age Kai will ask those participating to count from 1 to 13 in unison. As they say the next number, they say it more intensely. During the ceremony, no one may walk away until the fire turns into ash, as it would be disrespectful to ignore it.
Search for meaning. The Mayans were a unique civilization which contained the vast knowledge of agriculture, mathematics, and astronomical systems. Mayans were quite intelligent in their discoveries of what the world holds for them. The crucial meaning that they understood from the world is that there are two worlds, which are the spirit world and the real world, where the dead go to the spirit world. They had followed the deities' premonitions and had added to their calendar, including the end of the world.
Fly me to the moon. Let me play up there with those stars.